I'm Jonathan Mayo Butchery. I'm a visual effects artist and post-production specialist with 3DR, and this was the first shoot that I've been on using Solo as the only tool to shoot and direct the content that we wanted to capture. The experimental part of this was, like, what can you shoot only using Solo? And how creative can we get with that to tell the story? So I went into the shoot with storyboards and specific shots that I wanted to get to tell the story piece by piece, dramatically revealing certain parts. So as somebody who is interested in like exploring and experimenting and trying to get, creative things to happen, Solo kind of gives you certain tools that you would never otherwise have, and it does that in the form of smart shots. So using things like cable cam and orbit that are really specific to framing and focusing on your subject. The soccer shoot was a really interesting, intense shoot. We had this amazing location, which was this soccer field in the middle of downtown Mexico City. It was perfect, exactly what we were looking for. We had some really talented child actors that were actually amazing soccer players. They could have beat anybody who was on the crew easily. So we arrive at the location with a very detailed shot list, specific shots we want to get, shot modes we wanted to use to achieve these shots, and then the weather starts rolling in and changing dramatically. So we had to basically improvise. We scrapped the shot list, we got Solo in the air, knowing we had a very limited window of time to shoot, and using the shot modes like Orbit, we were able to just target where we wanted the camera to focus and hit play, and now you have Solo just rotating perfectly around your subject, getting footage. Now that that drone's up there, you can kind of think in terms of a director. You move the kids back, you set them up where you want them to start, and as the actors are moving, you're able to take that orbit and move it in, increase or decrease the radius to control how tight the shot is. You're able to raise it up in the air, and you're able to do both of those things simultaneously. So you can get these really interesting shots, whether it's starting up high and then swooping in low along this orbit to get a nice track shot along the ground, or something like a dolly shot where you can be at eye level with the ball, really capturing the movement and getting this dynamic move that can swoop up and increase, in size and scope, revealing more of the scene. Because it's constantly rotating around exactly where you want your framing to be, you can just let it play and handle each pass of the orbit as something that can reveal something new. If the kids are coming into frame from behind, you can say, okay, let's wait till the drone tees up, swooping around, and you have this shot where you're coming from behind them, around the side, and you can be so responsive to this thing. So one of the things that interests me most about what you can do with Solo is it changes the way you can think about perspectives of things. One of the critical moments in the story is when the kids see the anomaly for the first time. And what we wanted to do was take the perspective of the actual ball and put the camera right there. So you feel like you are the soccer ball coming up on the goalie and stopping in space when this anomaly occurs, which is a really interesting moment in the video. So to achieve a shot like this, we're able to use cable cam. So we set up an A point further away from the goal and the B point focusing in tight on the subject. And with the touch of a button, Solo flies towards the end point and eases in right on the perfect framing, which allowed me to capture the subject's reaction to this anomaly for the first time in this really interesting point of view perspective from the ball. Once that cable cam is programmed, I can focus on the moment and the performance, knowing that Solo will handle hitting the mark that I want for the framing that I want. And that gives you the confidence to get shots that I normally wouldn't have as somebody who doesn't have years of piloting experience. So when we got to the Atomi Ceremonial Center, they had these really neat cones that were on top of the center, all the way at the very peak. To see something like that and realize that you could have a drone pull back through those cones and reveal some of the interesting geometry of that place, you're able to take your starting point, which is an environment completely different from where your endpoint is, and reveal these elements one by one. Because Solo handles all the movements in between, all you have to focus on is your framing. So if you frame up a shot at the beginning and end, it will fly between the objects and have that be repeatable. So for the shot that we did flying between the architecture, we were able to set that up one time and then reset the drone, have the actors reset, give them direction on where their marks were and how their speed was, and then keep hitting play. You can focus on the content and direct the actors, whereas if you were flying manually, you would need to focus on piloting. Like for instance, when they start to walk down and encounter this anomaly, we use Solo to do something that we would traditionally use a camera on rails or a slider to do. You know, the guy's waving over to another person that has another instrument to come examine this. And we're able to use slow tracking shots where you get this big gravity feeling of this guy walking over with his tools to examine this thing. And what's nice is you can set up your framing and adjust things like the speed. So if you have an actor who's walking right, or you want that walk to feel a little more purposeful, you can have him slow down, and then just one button on the interface, you can slow the camera down, and you still have your framing, and you can get this nice tracked dolly shot like we got in this video. So when we have all of these moments converging, like specific shots that we want to show the tension in the scene, the fact that we can get Solo up in the air and hit the first one and get the dolly just right, and then with one battery, without cutting, without getting the actors out of costume, move on to the next scene. And you're able to just really react in this really fun, interesting way to what's going on, where you're knocking out shots, you're adding shots, like, oh, it'd be cool if we picked that up, and it changes the way that you think on a shoot. It changes your mindset for how you capture footage and what you can do with actors. All of these things come together to create a really nice, seamless user experience. It's a ton of fun to use, and it gives you amazing quality output.